One of the ways that I think authenticity plays out in ministry powerfully is when we tell the truth about ourselves. Very often people in leadership, teachers, coaches, parents, pastors feel the need to be a good example. And sometimes that can mean to sort of present ourselves in the best of light to people who are watching, our children or our congregants, as if then our example is something they'll imitate and make spiritual progress. But what in fact that does is misleads those people and discourages those people. It's a little like the woman who, what sometimes women do and torture each other is their house generally has a certain level of disarray, but if they know their friends are coming over, they make it spotless. So when their friends walk in, their first thought is, my house never looks this good. And they feel inadequate because they see their friend's house is pristine. Well, their friend's house isn't pristine. It was just made up to look that way, to fool them. And that's really the way that a lot of ministry and leadership and parenting is done. And it's really destructive. So when you urge your church towards some imperative in the Bible, something that the Bible encourages you to do, to love your neighbor, the last thing you want to really do is present illustrations of how you're stellar at doing that. In fact, one of the most powerful things you can do is point out how you regularly fail to love your neighbor. So, it's honest, because you do. It's real. And then everyone in the church, rather than sort of admiring you because you love your neighbor but they don't, actually here's the truth. You don't love your neighbor very well. And I don't care who you are, and I don't care how spiritually advanced you are, you don't love your neighbor very well at all. And so when we tell the truth about that, everyone in the room can say, I don't either. And suddenly you've got them, and your fellow sinners now repenting of your failure to live out the love that you've received and give it to your neighbor. It's highly destructive for children to never hear their parents confess their sins, to not live in an environment where their parents are constantly telling the children, everything I instruct you to do, I fail to do myself. That old saying, don't do as I, if it's don't do as I say, do as I do. Well, as parents, we've got to say what we say and what we do falls short. And that kind of honesty before our children gives them tremendous room. We ruin our children by this false narrative of us doing life really well. So, in our church, one of the things we do is spiritual formation, spiritual development comes. Yes, we have to teach what the Bible teaches. Yes, we teach principles as the Bible presents them. And yet we're quick to repent and be honest about the fact that we don't keep those principles ourselves. That's why we need constant dependence on the righteousness of Christ. We have no merit. We're utterly dependent on the merit of Christ and Christ alone.